Hello and good afternoon everybody. I am Mrinali Dwivedi on behalf of ACTI DIABCARE community. Welcome one and all to this Facebook Live where we are going to focus on a very important topic which is diabetes and how it relates to our everyday diet, specifically on wheat. So to start with, let me give you an overview of diabetes. Diabetes is a serious condition that affects individuals of all ages. We know that it occurs when the body does not produce insulin or cannot properly utilize the insulin that it produces. To understand how alarming it is, let me tell you that in 2022, approximately 30% of Indians, that is around 11.7 million people, were living with pre-diabetes or diabetes. That's how alarming it has got. So, what are the food trends in diabetes studies? Every year, a new superfood emerges, much like fashion trends. One year, the media is raving about the benefits of pistachios, and the next, it's all about avocados. The encouraging news is that substantial research has been conducted on lifestyle factors and dietary patterns to help and manage and treat diabetes. So before you start suspecting a conspiracy by the food industry, let me clarify that all these foods are beneficial. However, this does not mean that foods you're currently eating are not good for you. Or are they? Let's explore. People with diabetes often have questions about which foods to eat and which to avoid. Roti or rice, which is better for diabetes? Is wheat chapati even good for diabetes? And so on. There are some common questions patients keep asking their dietitians. So let us understand the role of wheat specifically in our diet. We have consistently been relying on chapatis and rotis that we eat, and that's how significant they are. Similar to rice, wheat chapati and fulkas are a staple food for millions of Indians and are deeply ingrained in our culture. Even if we recommend avoiding rice or wheat as a part of diabetes management, it might have very little effect. This is because people find it very challenging to adapt to such a drastic change. In such a situation, moderation is the key. Let us understand the wheat consumption patterns of India, where wheat has been one of the most commonly consumed cereals in India. So every day we have been consuming wheat in the form of rotis, parathas, theplas, khakras, puri, pav, bread, pastas, biscuits, cakes, namkeens, and the list can go on. So, do we even know our wheat? Let us understand the nutritional value or how a nutritionist sees wheat. How it affects blood glucose levels. So typically, the nutritional value of 100 grams of wheat is 320 kilocalories, 64 grams of carbohydrates, 10 grams of proteins, 1.5 grams of fat, and 11.4 grams of fiber. If this is cumbersome to understand, let me tell you there are two parameters that we nutritionists take into consideration when we're supposed to explain or understand how a particular food is going to affect blood glucose levels. So these are glycemic index and glycemic load. Individually explaining them, glycemic index measures how quickly a carbohydrate containing food raises blood glucose levels, while the glycemic load takes into account a particular amount of a carbohydrate in a portion of food and how quickly it might raise the blood glucose levels. For example, the GI of whole grain wheat flour is 45, whereas the GL, that is the glycemic load, is about 26.8. So the low glycemic index of wheat is what makes it a good cereal for diabetes. However, because carbohydrate content in wheat is the highest, you must keep a watch on the quantity of wheat that you're consuming, which we commonly call is portion control. But to understand the fiber and processing of this wheat, besides tracking your wheat intake, you must also ensure to add a lot of fiber and proteins to your diet in the form of dals, in the form of salads, in the form of leafy vegetables, and or other proteins that you might have in your diet to reduce the glycemic load of your entire meal. So additionally, you must ensure that you do not sieve the flour too much, as it might reduce the fiber content in the wheat flour, because the fiber content itself reduces the glycemic index, which directly affects your blood glucose levels. The less processed the wheat is, the better choice it makes for controlling blood sugar levels. It is as simple as that. Now, besides just being a carbohydrate or affecting your blood glucose levels, wheat also has certain other health benefits. To understand these effects of wheat on diabetes, it is very crucial that we understand what other benefits wheat has on our bodies. Is that it lowers the risk of developing chronic diseases, while it helps you manage your heart health. The higher fiber content in the wheat also delays the emptying of the stomach, helping you feel more satiated for a longer period of time. It also lowers the risk of developing certain cancers, and it strengthens the bones. And all of these is thanks to the fiber content of the wheat that is there, and which makes it the hero here. So some of the benefits were these. While we have studied these benefits, let us also address a very common question: is it okay to completely replace rice with wheat? So being the very common question here, while wheat has a lower glycemic index compared to white rice, it doesn't mean you have to completely replace rice with wheat. Your moderation and balance are very essential. While you can have them both, but in controlled portion. For example, you can consume a combination of both of these along with your dals and bhajis and salads, ensuring also that you don't overeat all of these. So raising the question, how much wheat now you should be consuming? So for a sedentary adult, it is important to balance the intake of both wheat and rice. Typically, an average adult should consume around 2 to 3 servings of whole grains per day. This can be roughly 2 to 3 chapatis and half a bowl of rice in the entire day. Of course, this can be supplemented with other forms of fibers and proteins. Remember, portion control is crucial, and it's best to consult with a dietitian for a personalized advice. Now that we have studied what forms of wheat are good for you, there are certain forms of wheat which cannot be that beneficial, which is the processed ones. So while wheat in its whole form is beneficial, refined forms of wheat like maida should be avoided. For example, the white breads, the lacha parathas, most biscuits that are sold commercially, other baked items like pastries, cakes, and everything made of refined flours. So these forms are devoid of fiber and can cause a spike in your blood sugar levels, and should be avoided and rather stopped to be consumed in large quantities. Having studied plain wheat flour, let us understand the composition or the composite nature of flours to lower the GI, the glycemic index of these flours. So a great way to reduce the glycemic index of your meals is to use a composite flour. You can mix a quarter portion or lesser of wheat flour with either fenugreek flour or soy flour. So this not only lowers the glycemic index but also adds nutritional benefits to your plain flour as it is. And then now that we have studied how things that are made from wheat are still not good for us, and how wheat flour itself can be enhanced in its nutritional benefits, let us understand in what ways you can consume wheat if you are a person with diabetes. So the most popular cereal across the globe, which is wheat, can be consumed in so many ways by people with diabetes as well, including rotis or chapatis. So generally wheat flour is used to make a roti or a chapati, which is our staple food in many Indian households. It can be consumed in the form of dalia, which is fiber-rich cereal made with broken wheat. Dalia is a nutritious and filling food option, let me tell you. It can also be made in the form of chillas, which can also be called as wheat pancakes, made from wheat flour using a healthy oil like a rice bran oil or olive oils. You can also make healthy cakes out of these wheat flours, where whole wheat flour can be used to make carrot cakes with natural sweeteners like stevia and yogurt to replace sugar and oil in this preparation. There can also be parathas or theplas. Although the calorie count is high in thepla and parathas, whole wheat thepla and vegetable parathas can occasionally be consumed by people with diabetes. So this is again the composite nature of wheat, where you are adding vegetables or a form of protein like a dal ka flour in the wheat flour and making parathas or theplas out of it. We usually add besan to thepla ka atta, or you can add vegetables like carrots, French beans and methis and palaks or beetroot purees to these attas and still make your parathas and theplas, and you're good to go there. there. And now that I've said all those benefits, let me back it up with what statistical data there has been about wheat. So studies have shown that increased intake of whole grains, including wheat, that are high in dietary fiber can help and manage and also may reduce the risk of diabetes, which is a good news. In fact, a review of 45 observational and 26 interventional studies showed that consuming 3 to 5 servings of whole grains per day, or around 80 grams of whole grains per day, has been shown to reduce the risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 26%. So this is in comparison to the refined nature of flours or to the refined nature of other flours, or opting to junk foods which are very low in fiber. You can rather switch them with whole grains in your diet, and then you are actually saving yourself from developing any kind of lifestyle disorders or specifically diabetes. Additionally, fiber from cereal grains appears to help reduce the risk of diabetes more than fiber from fruit. Now, this tells us that whole grains are even more beneficial to diabetes than fruits are, because cereal fiber or mixtures of whole grains and bran is also associated with a reduced risk of diabetes, because they are lesser in sugar content, and then comparatively the 100-gram values are more in the fiber content. When it comes to refined grains, researchers have shown that these food products do not contribute to a reduction in diabetes risk. While reviews published on refined grain intake and risk of diabetes demonstrated no association comparing those who consume the highest and the lowest amounts of refined grains, this is likely due to the lower fiber content of the refined grains and speaks to the importance of including more of whole grains to your diet. So after all of this information, I must say in conclusion that your wheat is not the culprit in disrupting your blood sugar levels, and in no circumstances you are supposed to completely give up on wheat individually based on your sugar level or your sugar readings. But you can actually do good things with wheat, and there are so many other ways that you can add and subtract from your diet just to give wheat its dignified place, because it has been a staple for us all this while. And thank you for joining me today. I hope this session has provided you with valuable insights into the role of wheat in managing diabetes. And remember, moderation is the key, and it's important to maintain a balanced diet rich in fiber and whole grains. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. Stay healthy and take care. See you in our next session. Thank you, guys.